Since the regular season has came and went, I decided to touch on a topic that I tend to go over every so often. Unfortunately, each and every campaign there's a slew of players that underperform significantly when it comes to set expectations. And when it comes to the list we're about to go over, well, they all have something else in common. The downward spiral that they've been experiencing has been going on for more than a hot minute. In this video, we're going to go over a select number of players, their particular situations, and why it would be best if their teams moved on from them entirely. And with that, here are 4 NHL players whose teams should give up on them. As most of us know by now, the Pittsburgh Penguins, for the first time since Sidney Crosby's rookie season, missed the playoffs entirely this year. And due to this fact, I think it's safe to say that there's going to be more soul-searching being done in the Steel City than there has been in a very long time. Aside from filling the obvious vacancies in the front office, Pittsburgh has many pending UFAs on the books. Jason Zucker, Brian Dumoulin, and Danton Heinen are among several player contracts that the Penguins' future GM will have to decide on. However, another notable name that we're going to focus on here is Pittsburgh's starting netminder, Tristan Jarry. Drafted 44th overall by Pittsburgh in 2013, Jarry progressively proved himself over time and eventually claimed the net as his own, which ultimately sent Matt Murray to Ottawa. Last contract year for Jarry was almost the inverse of the one he finished out this year, as Jarry was able to record an impressive .921 save percentage, which was his best yet to date throughout 2019-2020, before securing a 3-year deal valued at $10.5 million. Unfortunately though, as I alluded to, the inconsistencies from the goaltender began to manifest in the following campaign. Interestingly, Jarry finished with the same exact save percentage as he did this past season for 2020-2021 with a .909. To take it even further, Jarry's goals saved above expected was a negative 2.8, and his wins above replacement was also a negative .47. While stats do tell a story in their own way, they tend to leave out outside factors that contributed to the numbers in the first place. And as far as Jarry was concerned, his performance could be partially due to the fact that he had suffered multiple injuries and was even playing with them at times. I was playing with a lot of injuries. I played through a lot, so it was tough, Jarry says. It's tough to get practices and tough to get consistent gameplay. And it was just a tough season altogether for me. Even though the Penguins don't have an adequate replacement ready to step in, moving on from Jarry seems like the best move for all parties involved. When Oliver Ekman-Larsson was initially traded to Vancouver, the idea was that by taking on his and Connor Garland's contracts, it was, in a way, an upgrade. And by some standards, it was, considering that Arizona took on some bad contracts in exchange. Anton Roussels and Louis Eriksson's were among them. And in turn, the defenseman would also be coming to them at a reduced price, considering that the Yotes took on just under $1 million per season of salary retention. Former GM Jim Benning had this to say about OEL. Besides what he'll do on the ice for us, he'll be a top pairing guy. Can play a lot of minutes, can be a matchup guy playing against the other team's top lines, he says. Yes, unfortunately Benning had a delusional mindset at this point and assumed that despite the fact that OEL had been undergoing a steep decline, that he would be able to thrive on the top pairing. Fast forward to the present and, well, things haven't gotten any better. In fact, Ekman-Larsson just finished his past season with the worst point totals he's had in his career thus far, as the defenseman was only able to notch a measly 22 points in 54 games played. His defensive coverage was also lacking. For one, his on-ice goal differential was a negative 32, and to further make the case, he sported a 2-to-1 ratio when it came to giveaways and takeaways, with 25 giveaways and 11 takeaways. According to a breakdown of the Nucks, at even strength with and without OEL, well, stats don't lie. as Vancouver was clearly giving up a significantly higher amount of shots with him on ice that were on the left side than without him. And the coaching staff at some point took notice, as he was a healthy scratch for a January contest against Tampa Bay. Currently, the options are slim when it comes to what GM Patrick Allvin can do with his contract that's only at its midway points, since OEL won't be a pending UFA until 2027, and he still has a full no move clause built into his contract. It's not going to be easy to get rid of him. With an AAV of 7.26, counting the retention, Ekman-Larsson is far from being worth what he's getting paid. The best option floating around is, unsurprisingly, a buyout, which would cost Vancouver less, but still wouldn't be cheap. Adjusting to a new team after being traded can be daunting for any player. Acclimating to a new system, learning to gel with new teammates, and a coaching staff can be a lot for anyone to manage. And for Anthony Mantha, the struggle has been all too real. Following nearly a point-per-game season for Detroit throughout the 2019-2020 campaign, Mantha was traded to the Capitals during the deadline of 2021. I like a lot of the attributes: the size, the skill, the shot, the scoring ability. He's a really good skater for his size, Caps GM Brian McClellan stated. Considering the main prize in Jakub Vrana that was going the other way is only 6 feet, Mantha, at 6'5", was definitely an upgrade in the frame department. And initially, for the forward, the adjustments seemed to be going alright, as Mantha was able to record a goal for the first 4 games he played with Washington. However, as I hinted at, Mantha began to struggle later on down the road with production, and usually it's pretty fair to give a player a grace period for adjustment purposes. But this last campaign marked his second full season with the Caps. Granted, Mantha has fought his fair share of injuries, like most players do, and didn't play a full 82 games. Even still, in the most recent season, Mantha was anything but consistent. For example, he went 12 games straight towards the middle of the season without scoring a single point. Former head coach Peter Laviolette apparently took note and even made Mantha a healthy scratch on multiple occasions. With 11 goals notched following 67 games played, Mantha's shooting percentage was a career low at 9.2%. He also had a negative 2.3 goals above expected. Since he is going to be a UFA next offseason, it's possible that the Caps will be shopping Mantha if they aren't already. Unfortunately though, his $6.5 million AAV may not seem too appealing at this point, considering his recent decline. Another season, another Matt Murray injury. When former GM Kyle Dubas initially traded for Murray, the hockey world was largely skeptical. Sure, he had some favorable stats towards the end of his final season with the Sens, but wasn't reliable in the slightest due to injuries. And unsurprisingly, Murray unfortunately wasn't healthy for a good portion of his experimental season with the Leafs. Firstly, the netminder was nursing a groin injury, then it moved to his ankle. And the final nail in the coffin, which was definitely bad luck, was a head injury he sustained shortly before the playoffs began. In the 26 games he was able to play in, Murray was inconsistent. He would have amazing stints of brilliance and either start to struggle after or get injured. Here's how Murray's play appeared towards the latter half of the season in comparison to the start. As you can see, he played really well for a short span of time, and then it just tapered off. From the time he returned to play in March until he was injured in April, Murray recorded a .880 save percentage and a 3.84 goals against average, and sported a 3-3-0 record. Currently, without his biggest fan in Dubas running the front office, there's nothing but question marks surrounding Murray's fate. In conclusion, it's entirely possible that some of these players we went over won't be with their current teams by next season's inception. But, as always, it will be interesting to see how things play out this offseason. If you enjoy my work and want to support me, you can do so by shopping with Fanatics. Since the playoffs are here, now's the perfect time to stock up on your favorite team's gear. Even if you're like me and your team didn't make it, there's still daily sales to choose from. And as always, you can also support me by joining my Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.